Nico Rosberg was Lewis Hamilton's greatest rival. Their battles together at Mercedes were fierce, and though Lewis beat him in 3 of the 4 seasons together, it could easily have gone the other way. Since retiring from the sport, Rosberg has stayed in motorsport, and his insight and commentary during races is often some of the most insightful. His time at Mercedes was tough though, and since the off-season began, he's taken the opportunity to talk about his time at Mercedes, Max Verstappen's achievements, and much more. Stick around because you might be shocked by what Rosberg has to say about Verstappen. The rivalry between Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg started from the first season that Britain joined Mercedes. While the rivalry remained subdued in their first season together in 2013, it took off when the duo challenged each other for the championship the following year. Mercedes' era of dominance started in 2014. While delivering excellent cars all those years was a reason for it, having 2 fiercely competitive drivers was another. Their competitive attitude, however, did not just stop at fighting other drivers on the grid, but went down to racing against each other. Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg have known each other since childhood, from their karting days. The duo were even teammates racing for Mercedes-Benz McLaren in Formula A. The conflict, however, started when Lewis was just 13. Appearing on the Jonathan Ross show in 2015, he recalled, "There is for sure this friction naturally with Nico. We've known each other since I went to race in Italy. I got signed when I was 13. When I got there, he was the golden child, because his dad was an F1 world champion. So we arrived in a helicopter and had all the best of everything." Hamilton added, "He led the whole race. I was behind him and I overtook him in the last lap and won the race, and that's where our relationship started. So you can imagine we're in Formula 1 now, and he more than ever wants to set the record straight. But I think there's only room for one number 1. The on-track rivalry between the two often spilled over off-track as well. Both Rosberg and Hamilton often spoke against each other in press conferences and interviews. The rivalry between the two created a strange atmosphere inside the Mercedes camp. For the most part, the team did not favour one driver over the other, though in their second race together, Mercedes did invoke team orders to keep Rosberg behind Hamilton. While not favouring one driver over the other helped avoid confrontation, it did destroy friendships. Rosberg had been with Mercedes since they joined the sport, and since team principal Toto Wolff was an investor. He developed friendships while driving alongside Michael Schumacher, but with the garage needing to be unbiased to stop any infighting, those friendships disappeared when Hamilton joined. Beating Hamilton was a monumental task, and the stress of not having the team behind him, along with becoming more interested in ecotech than F1, was part of why he left the sport. Now, 6 years on from when they were teammates, Rosberg spoke in an interview about the powerhouse that Mercedes has become. Hamilton? He remains one of the strongest. Age doesn't affect him. He and Mercedes have accomplished something remarkable to be competitive again quickly. I'm sure they'll be Red Bull's main rivals next year, especially towards the middle of the season. 6 years on, you might think that Lewis and Nico's relationship was stronger. Maybe the two had even become friends, but that apparently isn't the case. Rosberg was candid when he revealed he's in touch with his former Mercedes boss, but no others from his winning team. "I see Toto Wolff every now and then. I hear him on the phone. I should say I don't have any real friends. That's because the most important part of my career has been in an unusual situation, with the whole team having to keep a neutral attitude between Lewis and I. It was a strange environment knowing that the main rivalry was inside the garage. There was team spirit without overreacting, and so it became difficult to approach. It must be easier for Verstappen, who's considered by all to be the number 1 in the team, I guess. Because of that, there's a lighter mood at Red Bull," ventured Rosberg. Rosberg is right. Verstappen is very clearly Red Bull's number 1. And while the team may celebrate Perez winning races, it is Verstappen who runs that garage. It must make a big difference mentally. Having the whole team behind you, encouraging you and being positive around you will be a huge boost. That's something Rosberg never had while he was at Mercedes, because his main rival was on the other side of the garage. Toto Wolff could never have let the two battle like rivals on different teams, because the team would have eaten itself alive. Rosberg must be incredibly jealous of Verstappen, and will be wondering how much more he could have done with a team like that behind him. Despite wishing he had what Verstappen now does, Rosberg did state that Verstappen can already be ranked as one of the top 5 greatest drivers of all time, at just 25 years old. He has the fighting mentality, just like Michael Schumacher and Ayrton Senna, and he doesn't make mistakes anymore, he explained. No teammate has been able to keep up with him, and we're talking about Pierre Gasly and Sergio Perez, who are not exactly bad drivers. Verstappen has blown my mind this year. Arguably, Daniel Ricciardo was able to beat him, but that was very early in his career, once in a season where Max drove 4 races for Red Bull's B team, and once in his 3rd year in the sport. I don't think Sergio Perez or Pierre Gasly match up against a prime Daniel Ricciardo personally, but it is easy to understand Nico's point. And he didn't just beat Pierre Gasly and Sergio Perez, he made them look like Formula 4 drivers. Nico carried on to explain why he ranked Max so highly. He had a bad start to the season and Ferrari was superior at the time. He then went on to have a historic season with a total of 15 victories, with relatively few pole positions. He had 7, often winning by moving forward. He will always be among the best 5 drivers. Certainly, he's won 2 world titles at the age of 25 and has already won more races than Fernando Alonso. He has enormous talent and is now complete. Verstappen's many victories come in all forms, with wins from 7 different positions on the grid, including a memorable triumph from 14th at the Belgian Grand Prix. Ferrari pushed Red Bull hard, particularly during the first half of the season, with Leclerc ending the year with 9 pole positions to Verstappen's 7. However, reliability issues, strategic blunders and driver errors from the Italian team on race days were taken advantage of by the ruthless Verstappen, who hardly put a foot wrong all season. We need to remember also, it's not like from the get-go this year his car was miles quicker than everyone else's, Rosberg said. The Ferrari was the quickest car in the beginning of the season, and still he got this incredible 15 wins and really destroyed the opposition in that way. If you look at the points, he scored 146 more than anybody else. It's unreal. It's one of the greatest driving seasons we've ever seen, certainly. This is high praise from the former world champion. He does give some great punditry, but I'm sure many of you will have some disagreements about his review of Verstappen's season. Nico has actually been singing the praises of another of Lewis Hamilton's rivals, George Russell. The young Brit who made the move to Mercedes this season, replacing Valtteri Bottas, had an outstanding first season away from Williams. Beating Lewis Hamilton in his first season as a Mercedes driver was an unbelievable achievement for George Russell, according to Nico Rosberg. Despite the Brackley squad's struggles with their porpoising W13, Russell went from Mr. Saturday to Mr. Sunday as he strung together a run of 9 top 5 results, clearly more comfortable with the bouncing car than Hamilton. As the season progressed, the 7-time world champion found his feet and hit a run of form. Some might say he was unlucky not to win the United States or Mexican races, and Red Bull team boss Christian Horner believed he could have gotten the better of Max Verstappen if Mercedes had been less conservative with their race strategy. But as it was Russell who clinched Mercedes' first and only win of the season, as he led Hamilton home in a 1-2 finish at the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. Rosberg said, "Lewis is still at his very best, so to beat Lewis is just an unbelievable achievement. We all know Lewis had a bit of an unlucky, scruffy season, where the car was not going well, and they were experimenting a lot, so that kind of mixes things up a little bit. But that doesn't take anything away from George, who did an incredibly good job." While Nico does heap praise on Russell for his performance this year, he thinks if Mercedes are back at the front next year, it could be a very different game. If the two drivers are up against each other for race wins or a world title, Mercedes' decision on whether to let them fight or favour a driver could be the story of the season. If next year they start right at the front, fighting for podiums and wins from the get-go, and being away from all the mess of the pack, that will then be a different situation, with a better car as a platform where they're not completely lost, and they don't know what's going on with the setup and have to try everything. So then, George has to prove it again and see if he can still stay ahead of Lewis, and it's the ultimate challenge. So what do you think of Nico's comments about his time at Mercedes? Could George Russell run into the same problem as him next year? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.